I am enough. I was enough. I'll always be enough. This podcast was created for all of the women like me that like to create peace but can turn it up if need be. Here's your weekly reminder that you're worth it, and no one's inability to see that shall alter how you feel. This is My Curl Speak with Key. Welcome to My Curl Speak with Key. Of course, I'm Key. And the reason why I started this podcast, actually, let's back up. The reason why I started My Curl Speak is about 5 years old now. And in the beginning, it was focusing on women who've been domestically abused, sexually assaulted. And as time went on, I realized that the more we love ourselves, the less likely situations like that would even come up to start with. So this year we're going to do a different thing. My Curl Speak is still My Curl Speak, and we still are for women empowerment. We're still for women against domestic violence. But right now, I want to speak to everybody. Like, I want to speak to the little girls who were told that they were too dark skinned or they would be pretty if they were a little lighter. I want to speak to the girls who weren't told they were loved by their fathers. So every man that says those 3 words, they feel the need to either have sex with him, spend money on him, or whatever it is to keep him around. I want to speak to the ones that maybe you weren't abused. Maybe no one put their hands on you, or maybe no one called you ugly, or maybe they didn't do things like that to you, but you always took stuff off of people that you thought you had to take. And that's the reason why I made this podcast, because that little girl, that girl that I'm describing to you, it was me. And I don't want y'all to be the same way that I was. So on this episode, what we're going to go into, we're going to talk about boundaries. Because what I'm noticing is Audacity was at an all-time high in 2020. It must have been buy one, get one free. So let's dig into that real quick. I'm recently single, or as I like to say, I've been freed for relationship employment. Yeah, that's an accomplishment. And now that I'm back in the dating world, in the scene, y'all, again, Audacity is at an all-time high. I recently started, we all go back to that old thing. Somebody that we used to deal with back in the day that we kind of can't leave alone. Yeah, so I had one of them, and he told me, he was like, Key, I don't like the new you. I don't like it. I just don't like the fact that when I call you and I want to link and I want to do this and that, you don't run when I want you to. And I couldn't do nothing but laugh, because I was like, okay, so when I was dealing with him like 3 or 4 years ago, I was extremely accessible. And what I mean by that, it didn't matter what I had going on. If me and my girls had plans, even if I just had planned a day for me, if that man had called me, I was on the way. But now that I see myself in a different light and I value myself a lot more than I used to 3 or 4 years ago, a lot of situations I have to look at it and see how it's benefiting me before I drop what I got going on. And I had another guy, a ex. He told me, he was like, I don't like the new you. Whenever we get into something or whenever I say the wrong thing, you block me. Now, in the back of my mind, all I'm thinking, okay, I've set a boundary. You're not going to talk to me any kind of way. You're not going to think that you can call me anytime. I'm not that girl anymore. But to them, it's a problem. I actually had somebody call me toxic last week. And it was the funniest thing that I've ever heard. Now, I'm a Scorpio, so we all have, toxic tendencies. But the reasoning that this guy told me I was toxic was because he felt like I was so sweet until I didn't get my way. And then when I didn't get my way, I didn't do what he wanted anymore. I said all that to say, establish boundaries. If a man really wants you, or if he is interested in you, your boundaries will not scare them. he'll stick around. But if he can't respect the fact that he can't call all time of night and he can't talk to you any kind of way, or you don't do this anymore, you don't do that anymore, then he's not the one for you. Because the one for you will meet you halfway every time. Every time. Another thing I want to touch on is the fact that we can't change anyone but ourselves. And I learned so much about myself in the last 6 months of freedom, relationship freedom, as I like to say. It's all about perspective. I can sit on here and I can cry about the fact that I'm single. Or I can sit on here and I could tell you that now I'm able to see other men. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm able to date freely. I'm able to see the pros and cons of what I like and what I don't like. And I'm having a good time with that. But establishing boundaries, it really helps me pick out who's for me and who's not for me. Because you're never too much for the one that you're supposed to be with. And you're all, like I say in the intro, you're enough. You're going to always be enough. You're enough. And if you're not enough, that means that that's not the person that you're supposed to be with. I can repeat that over and over and over again. And I hope that it was on someone's ears that needed to hear it. But your boundaries doesn't make you a bad person. You can say no and not give a reason why. No is no. No is actually a sentence. So this year, I hope that you guys understand that you don't have to explain yourself as much as we've been explaining. And you don't have to beg. I will be completely honest with you and tell you that in the year of 2020, I feel like I repeated myself entirely too much. All I really wanted to do was go on a date and go to Texas Roadhouse. That was it. That was it. All I really wanted to do was do that. And to be honest with you, I still haven't been on that date to Texas Roadhouse. Not yet. And it's okay. Because I'm going to go soon, even if I have to take myself. But I'm going to go soon. But that's all I wanted. I was asking for the bare minimum in 2020. I'm not doing that in 2021. And I'm definitely not repeating myself. And you shouldn't either. Another thing I want to say is alone isn't lonely. Let me repeat that one more time. Just because I'm alone, it does not mean that I'm lonely. Some of the messages that I receive, or even the way that guys approach me sometimes, I really feel like they think that just because I'm single, I will accept anything. And that's not the case. If I have to be single for the rest of my life, and yeah, that does sound so dramatic, but if I have to be single for the rest of my life until I find exactly, or what I want finds me, I am determined to do just that. Because I will not allow anyone to half love me. I will not allow anyone to tolerate me. Because I know how it feels when you feel like someone's tolerating you. Like my last relationship, it was good when it was good. And then when it got bad, it got bad. And that's how all relationships, when they end, that's how it is. Like, and a lot of times now that I'm on the dating scene, people love to ask me what happened with that. My answers change from time to time. It depends on who asks me. Now, if someone asks me from my local city, if someone from my city asks me, I know y'all probably know what happened. So I give you an answer like, we were in love. We fell out of love and he wanted something else. And that's how I say that. Now, I used to give real sarcastic answers. Like my answers used to be real bitter before I realized that my ex is not my enemy. My ex was a lesson. And for a lot of us, we don't actually realize what our lessons are. And that's why we keep going through the same thing over and over again. Over and over again. Because you're not taking, the signs. You're not actually seeing that it's a pattern. So you're dating the same guys in different outfits. You're dating the same guys, but they all look different. Like you could be dating Mark right now, right? And Mark is tall and he's handsome and he's brown skinned, right? He's everything. But then y'all break up and you end up dating someone that acts exactly like Mark, but he's short and he's dark skinned and he's this and that. And you don't even understand that you're picking the same man in different clothes because you didn't learn the lesson that you were supposed to learn like 3 relationships ago. And that's where I am with it. My last relationship, it taught me independence. And what I mean by that is I will always make sure that I can financially support myself so that if this doesn't work out, I got me. My last relationship, it taught me patience because there was times where I really didn't want to hear anything that he had to say. And he was trying to tell me that he wasn't happy, but I mean, the signs were there. They were there. But I saw and I heard what I wanted to hear. You know what I'm saying? So I learned patience. I learned independence. I learned boundaries. We're going to go back to that special word. I learned boundaries. If something makes me uncomfortable, I am not doing it. I don't care if it makes you happy or not. And if that makes me selfish, then I'll just be selfish. But I also learned that in a relationship, you should always choose you. And if choosing you is not choosing me, then we weren't meant to be to start with. So I said all that to say I'm alone right now, but I'm not lonely. I am the freest I've ever been in my 30 years of living. I just turned 30, by the way. And I am the freest that I've ever been, but not in a way that I wouldn't say like, because when you say free, a lot of times when I see people talk about free on like social media, I automatically go to hoe. And that's a whole nother topic that we're going to dig in later on. That's not what I mean, but I'm free. Like I'm not responsible for anyone besides me and my children. I had a guy ask me one time because I've never really been single. That's the reality of it. Like I always jump from relationship to relationship to relationship. And I recently realized that it's because I felt like I couldn't be alone. But nothing's worse than being in a relationship that you're alone in already. So I handled this situation a lot different. Like I didn't even entertain men or women, Like I didn't entertain anybody for about 5 months after my breakup. And I know to y'all 5 months ain't long, but for me, that was a long time. Like I wasn't texting nobody. I wasn't going on dates. I wasn't having sex. I was literally just me and Netflix for 5 months until I felt a little bit, okay to stick my foot out there. And when I did, I remember the first guy that I went on a date with. I'm not going to tell y'all his name because that's not your business. But I remember the first guy that I went on a date with. And he asked me, was I looking for a relationship or was I looking for that feeling? And when he asked me the question, I couldn't really dissect it at the time because I didn't know the answer. And one thing I am not is a liar. So if I don't know the answer right now, I'll tell you that I don't know. So I remember calling my best friend and I was like, he asked me, did I want a relationship or did I miss the feeling? And she asked me what I thought. And I said, I do miss the intimacy of a relationship. Like I miss the whole, I can come to your house and we can cuddle. I miss that. Or I miss the whole having like my person. I had kind of missed that. But I don't miss the responsibility of caring about what somebody else is thinking all of the time. Like, I don't miss that. And I'm not in a position to actually deal with that right now because right now is the season for just me. So I thank him for asking me that. I thank him for opening my eyes to that because I don't want a boyfriend right now. But I do like to cuddle and I do like the hugs and I like going out to eat. And I like hunching sometimes with, I like it. I mean, I'm grown. But right now it's just me. And it's not lonely. I said all that to say, ladies, we need to do it a little different than how our moms did it. No disrespect to my mom or my grandma. But my grandma got married at 15. She started a family at 15. My great grandma got married at like 13. We need to take time to actually learn ourselves before we commit ourselves to jumping into other situations. I didn't have my whole phase in my 20s. I was married in my 20s. I'm actually divorced now. I didn't do it. I didn't date multiple people. I was one of those people that when I liked you, I cut everybody else off and it was all about you. That ain't me no more. I'm 30 and I'm dating. And I'm singling out the pros and the cons for what I like about you and what I don't like. And right now, if I could build a man, I know how he'd be because I'm able to like identify what I like and what I don't. Whereas I couldn't do that 5 years ago. I couldn't do that last year. Ladies, I'm begging you, before you jump into another relationship, take time for you. Because it's not as lonely being single as, the memes on Facebook make you feel. It's nowhere near as lonely as it could be if you're in a relationship with somebody that does not want to be in a relationship with you to start with. So I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. Well, thank you guys for joining Micro Speak with Key. If you like to follow us on social media, the Instagram is microspeak_. If you like to follow any of my personal pages, it's the Diary of Key. That's on Instagram. That's also on Twitter as well. Again, thank you guys for joining us and see you next week.